Hey everybody, this is Max Schneider, the bald-bearded bicyclist, back with another recap video. This one is from last week's BBC Sunday Series race. This is the second week, and the course is the Pembroke Course. And this week I am officially riding with the A group, which we might discuss later whether that is a good or a bad decision. But nevertheless, here I am. We started with a full lap of the course, kind of neutral, and so the mileage doesn't show that we've already done a lap here. And then we're if you look at the course diagram, that upper straight is the kind of the starting straight, because the finish line is just before that first corner. And right now we are in a headwind. You can see those blue arrows. The wind played a very big factor on this day. I don't remember what the actual miles per hour wind was, or the gusts, but it was a very strong east to west wind. So headwind right now, and drafting plays a big role. So I just kind of was trying to stay in the wheels, which, I didn't do a great job of this day for whatever reason. This is early in the race, and I think there might have been a couple of small attacks already, but it was everyone stayed together so far. But we're about to head into the first real crosswind section now that the race laps are live, and we're doing 4 total laps, so 3 real race laps this week in the A group at least. So after the first week, I was really trying to carry my speed better through the turns, and I did a little bit better of a job this week, but this past Tuesday, which was actually after the recording of this race, we did another crit practice, and I think this week things are really starting to click for me. So hopefully this coming race, which is going to be the Langford race this weekend, I can put some of that to use, carrying my speed through those turns. Beautiful day for this one. It was a little chilly, but nice sunny. It's probably mid 50s though, so there's definitely a chill. Once you start riding and you warm up a little bit, wasn't thinking about the cold, so felt good. Right now I'm not really in a draft. I don't know why. I think there were guys to my right. I didn't want to fight too hard for a wheel. I was just trying to stay with the pack, but those little accelerations where you're not really getting a draft do start to hurt. And obviously this, where we're going right now, the wind is left to right, so I was alongside everybody and I was basically providing them shelter, and I was just getting pelted myself, so I'm working way harder than everyone else. But obviously things calm down for a bit. There's just a lot of little surges here as a slightly downhill section. But you can see there's a couple of guys really stretching it out. As you make that little bend, you can see the guys out front. There is a pretty big gap there. Let's say there's maybe 10 guys, and there's somebody out pretty far. I don't know if that's one of the BBC guys. I'm not sure. So today you'll see a lot of the BBC guys decided to wear the retro kits, the yellow kits. So the the guys in that yellow as well as the red and blue with the white sleeves, they're all technically on the same team. Then we've got Project out here again. We've got Shikluna. James, who's right in front of me, wearing the BBC Champions jersey, is also on Shikluna. So a couple of different jerseys, but all the same team. Didn't do a great job on that turn, keeping my speed, but definitely see there's a few off the front here. James is trying to bridge up there. Everyone's following him pretty closely though. You could hear me calling out left, just telling people that there's an attack. So hopefully that helped the people in the front know that there was going to be an acceleration and they were able to jump on his wheel a little bit easier. This section we've got a nice tailwind, so you know we're flying right now over 30 miles per hour. We're obviously not even pedaling right now, but still carrying our speed. People are just kind of hanging out, wanting to see who's gonna make moves and do the work to bring that breakaway back. And James wants to get up there, but you know, everyone wants him to do the work. He doesn't want to tow people, so he's trying to time it right. I gotta close this gap. 34 miles per hour. Again, we've got this tailwind, so that helps. But still, it's pretty big efforts to close that. I just gotta time things better, really watch the surges. Things are picking up here. It's getting strung out a little bit. Oh, by the way, I thought I turned on my rear camera, and apparently I didn't press the button, and I was afraid that if I pressed it again, I'd be turning it off. But it's really hard to listen for that beep when there's wind blowing to know whether it's on or off. But next race, hopefully I'll have both cameras on again. I'm glad I at least got the front one. But don't worry, there was pretty much no one behind me this entire race, so the back camera was not very helpful. Little rise here. You can see it was a 2 to 3%. I mean, it's nothing major. This is a pretty flat course as well. But people try to take advantage of any sort of elevation, put in little digs, so pace picks up for that. And just kind of eases off again. There's just a lot of that in this race, and I don't know if it has a lot to do maybe with the wind, but it was extra surgy, considering it's not very technical and not a ton of turns. Though there are more turns than our normal four-corner circuits. So I think on a windy day, that makes it a little bit more confusing just to remember which way the wind is coming from. With more turns, with 4 turns, there's just less to think about when it comes to that. But this area was a little sketchy every time, because the road right here, you can see, cuts in, and Drew thankfully waved me, and I pulled in right before I went off the road there. But a couple of people later do not get over quick enough, so they end up in the gravel there. But no crashes or anything. Luckily, everybody was able to handle it. So I realized I gotta put in a big effort to close that gap. I mean, we're going 30 miles per hour in a very, very strong crosswind here. So it's left to right, and it hits 700 watts, 30 miles per hour in this crosswind. So everybody is trying to gutter, and I make the mistake of going off to the left because I didn't want to hit my brakes. But then I'm basically trapping myself to the left, which is then going to shelter other people and going to put me right in the windy area. I really should have gotten just to the right of Eric's wheel. He's in the Ronin jersey here, and that is his beautiful Ronin bike that he built himself. If you're looking for an awesome handmade bike, go find Eric Curtis Ronin Cycles. But yeah, I mean, I could have just handled a lot of these wind sections much better. I really should have been on the right, making sure that no one else could get to the right of me. And if I was going to put myself in the wind and be on the left, then I should have probably just moved up if I was going to be taking the wind anyways. Things pick up here. It's a tailwind section, so we're moving again pretty fast. So there was a good breakaway there, and I believe it was Steve and Derek maybe. But then everything slows down because we hit farm equipment, and it destroyed their breakaway, and we kind of neutralized the race. A huge bummer for them because they put in a lot of work to get that break, and then just had to stop. So everybody gets brought back together, reset. We get a chance to drink some water. You can see my shadow. I'm taking a drink. And just stick together for a second. Drew Lloyd and I are talking about how he happens to know my cousin. He found that out because he commented on my last video. So Buffalo's a small world. There's chances are you know somebody through someone else. I haven't seen him in so long, really. He's in Michigan. So that was the farm equipment. It pulled off, and things are starting to pick up. I think there was a car too. I don't know if it pulled off before or after the farm equipment, but you'll see when things actually resume to a normal pace.
Great sight snows as well. Really? Yeah, I don't know. I thought I saw it.
So I don't see that car, so that must have already pulled off, but I think we were letting the guys, you can see them out front, they must have let them kind of get a little bit of separation again because of that that equipment messing up their brake. So maybe the guys in the front let them resume their brake. I don't really know how that works. Obviously, if I were in the front of this race, I would have known a lot better what was going on in the front. So if you're strong enough, that's definitely where you want to be. You want to be able to see the moves, see who's in what break, see if you would want to bridge up. But I'm just basically holding on at this point, so I don't have the ability to really think about tactics as much, and that kind of brings me to the point of, what field should I really be in, A or B? I was talking to some of the mentors about this, and there's definitely advantages to both fields. A is going to put you with faster guys. It's going to let you see some of those tactics, people who really know what they're doing, and it's going to push me fitness-wise to really hang on and get some added strength. But the negative being that I'm just kind of hanging on the back, and I might not really be seeing as many of the moves that I really could be learning from because I'm not far enough up anyways. And I don't have the opportunity to really try anything in this race. I did that one move in the Grand Island race, and that was awesome. But for this one, I just wasn't feeling as strong, didn't have any opportunities where I really tried anything. And right now, I should have definitely grabbed onto Drew's wheel. I know Drew is strong. I know that, but it was delayed, and then I had to close the gap. So had I just jumped on his wheel when I first saw him take off, I would have been in a much better position, because I'm still not in a draft right now. And we're going 35 miles per hour. So when you're going that speed, a draft is essential. And we've got a crosswind here. It's right to left, so everyone's trying to stay over by the yellow line. But anyways, yeah, back to my point. A versus B. I'm kind of in this in-between stage where it would be beneficial for me to be in the B class and be able to really try stuff, just see how people react to different attacks. Just the fitness levels probably closer to where I am. So I'd be able to maybe bridge to people if they went off the front, or I could get a break established and actually stick in it with the other people. Whereas if I were to get into a break in this field, I would fall out of it very quickly, or I would have no chance of bridging. I wouldn't be able to do as much here. And the fitness, I work on structured training. I'm training regularly. I'm not as worried about just getting a good workout. If I wasn't riding as much and I needed to do A's just because that's the only way that I could push myself to gain fitness, then maybe that would be the best option for me. But the point I'm getting to is that next week I'm probably going to do B and try a lot more moves. And maybe I'll kind of go back and forth a little bit this season to get a little bit of both sides of it. But I think as long as I'm staying consistent with my own training, learning the tactics and just how the riders around me react to different moves might be more beneficial to me at this point. And the B races are really supposed to be for Cat 4 or 5 racers. That's what I am. And that's who I'm going to be racing with in the USAC races this year. So really the goal this year is to see if I can get any upgrade points. That's the finish line, by the way. We just passed it. So it's right before this upper left-hand turn. And this is a little, uphill, slightly uphill drag to that finish. And now we are on lap 2, race lap 2, but it's really lap 3 after that neutral. I'm definitely starting to get a little tired. I think total this race was about 50 miles, 45, 50 miles, something like that, when you include the neutral. And I realized that it's the longest race I've ever done. Being a Cat 4, we don't have races that last more than 45 to an hour tops, even road races usually. Maybe an hour 15 was the longest race I've done, I'm not sure. But, they're around 30 miles, so I don't have a huge base aerobic fitness. I've only been riding for 2 years. I started riding in 2020 just to get in better shape. I was very unhealthy. I'll probably do another video about how I got into cycling and my health issues and how it kind of just started as a way to try to live a little bit longer, but ended up getting hooked. So in 2021 was when I started racing, and it was really just because I wanted to ride with other people, and I got into the club to do the group rides, and it just kind of evolved from there. But really only having 2.5 years of riding and really a year and a half of structured training, I don't have the miles in my legs. I don't have the ability to keep race pace for upwards of an hour, hour 15, so at this point I'm just starting to get a little tired, fatigued, and again, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad if I was really staying in position due to the wind, using draft more efficiently, not surging as much. All these little things add up. So I think the B races, which are a little bit shorter and will probably emulate the Cat 4-5 races a little bit closer, will be good for me for this year. And then, maybe next year we'll reassess. So I'm pretty sure I am all the way on the back at this point. Again, sorry I don't have that rear cam. But yeah, I usually don't go back and forth like that from one side of the road to the other unless I'm at the back. Sometimes I'll swing out a little bit just to see what's going on in front of me. And try to see how far back I really am. But I don't know, I was not feeling it this race, and there were so many points where I should have just moved up, and I had no motivation. We are also in a really bad headwind right here, so not many people are motivated to really push it through this because it's difficult. I do sit on the front for a little bit the next time we do this section, and it is not pleasant. I'll be pushing pretty high watts, and I think we were going like 18 miles per hour. So whoever's on the front right now and getting us to 22 is doing some work. It's also slightly downhill, I guess, this section, 2% downhill. If I were smarter and not thinking about how tired I already was, probably would have been smart to jump up to like James's wheel here, anywhere where I could have still found shelter but could have moved up. That would have been smart. There was a bunch of glass on the right side of the road over here, I think, too, so everybody kind of went over at that point, but maybe it's up here a little bit further, but I don't know. Everything kind of slows down, and I just need to insert myself a little bit better. There's draft to be had, and I'm still hanging off the back. Everyone's kind of soft pedaling. We're only 14 miles per hour, and I think it's just that wind. Just people that were pulling on the front are tired and don't want to pull anymore, and nobody else wants to do work, so that's why it's kind of fanned out and not stretched out like it was before. Nobody really wants to do any work. You can see that we haven't seen the yellow jerseys in a while. I think there was a break that might have all come back together, or it was just really stretched out. I know how the race finished, but there's a lot of in the middle that I'm just not exactly sure what was going on with all the attacks. Like I said, it's just when you're sitting on the back, you don't know what's going on up there. So there could be a break early, and if you don't know about it, you could get to the front of the pack and wonder why no one's pushing, but it's because, they might have teammates in the break and nobody wants to do work. And you have no idea how far that break is. They're not going to tell you if they've got somebody in that. So, it's just really hard to do anything if you're not in the upper portion of the group throughout the race, or really keeping a close eye on what's going on, which I just think is just more difficult when you're on the back. Moose moves up there on the left. Wasn't really a full-on attack, but it definitely gets people a little more animated, so they pick up the pace. Then it slows down again pretty quickly because Again, we're heading into the headwind, and then the turn's coming up as well. But it's getting strung out a little bit. You can see the front. Everybody's trying to find the draft, so they're all getting over to the right. And I'm still sitting on the left like an idiot. So I gotta learn how to slot back in better. Immediately get back in the draft. Because I'm just wasting energy. And we're setting up for the turn. Again, I think I had to tap my brakes, unfortunately, there, so I lost a bunch of speed and gapped myself. So, had I let space open before the turn and pedaled through rather than getting a little too close to the rider in front of me and having to hit my brakes, I would have carried speed way better and I wouldn't have had this gap. I think some of that comes down to knowing the rider in front of you too and how they're going to handle the turn. If you know somebody's confident and the people in front of them are not going to hit their brakes, then you know everybody's just going to carry their speed and you don't have to worry about that as much. But if you're behind, not even directly behind, but if you're behind anybody, the couple people in front of you might hit their brakes, and it's going to be a chain reaction, and you're going to end up losing speed if you haven't left that gap before the turn. So again, we've got a left to right wind here. If I finally try to actually get over the right side here, probably getting a little bit of draft now, but I wasn't sitting more on the left. But you can see, now it's a little bit downhill, but you could see just how moving over that little bit, and I was putting the same watts out, and all of a sudden my speeds started going a little bit faster, and I started moving up without any more effort. But there is a small downhill section here, so it's not just the wind. I believe Drew takes off, yeah, on the right side here. He takes off. And I think that is the beginning of the race-winning break. I don't know if he ever comes back to the group. See, it's definitely starting to animate things. Some people are trying to bridge up to him. You can see it looked like it was Drew and somebody from Project up there. He's punching it out of this turn. Something we talked about in crit practice is when you need to sprint, not actually going to a harder gear, but it's trying to get your RPMs up as quickly as possible. And you can actually see on that kind of sprint there, or that was probably the highest power I hit this race. It was over 900. My cadence was actually pretty low, and you could tell I was fighting the gear to get up to that power. and I really need to work on spinning it up really quickly in a slightly easier gear, and I might be able to hit my higher wattages without really taxing my muscles, and I'd be able to get that speed up much quicker, acceleration quicker. So that's something I plan on working on. So this is, again, the tailwind section. You can see we're flying 34 miles per hour. The tailwind and a very slight -1 degree gradient. Trying to get around those guys that were moving backwards, and then this little bit of a gap opens to the guy in front of me, but also to the pack in front of him, so we're both pushing to get back on. And again, at these speeds, that draft is so important. You can see James takes off with a little counter right as this pack kind of gets together, but at this point I think there were a bunch of guys that were off. Trying to get to Drew, I think. I don't know, somebody who actually was in the front of the race might have to write in the comments what actually happened as far as the different breaks, who bridged up to who, and who was where during the important parts of this race. You can definitely see a couple of bodies off the front. Pace is easing a bit. Everybody's getting some water. This is that section where the road kind of cuts back in. So I got over. Allison didn't, but I tried to give her some space so that she could get back in here. She does a really good job keeping her control, being able to pop back up onto the road. I don't know if I would have been able to do that. But again, I am now taking the wind because it's left to right here. So I'm in a bad position. There's gaps opening, and I'm falling back while pushing 430 watts. Tend to default to just letting myself fall back and then trying to get back in the draft, rather than maybe I should be doing is fighting to move forward and then have, you know, if I then have to ease off, people will have to go around me on the wind side, and then I would be shielded. Whereas when I fall to the back, I'm still not getting a draft because the wind's coming left to right. And no one's going to help me out because they're all in front of me. It's mostly tailwind, but it is a little bit of a right to left tailwind this stretch. So I'm trying to stay more to the left of people. It's maybe one of the few sections I actually got that right. But then I go to the right because there was no yellow line there, but you're not supposed to cross the middle of the road. So I had to go around into the wind, which is exactly how people should be doing it. If they're riding that left line, you gotta go more into the wind. Again, this one has a lot of tailwind though, so this section's not as bad. But when we take this next turn, it's again where it's going to be heavily crosswind right to left. Everybody starts getting over. This section had a lot of little pebbles and gravel in it too. A few times I was hearing these rocks ping off of people's wheels. It's not the most pleasant sound. You got nice bikes, sharp rocks flying at them. I tell Allison to get in because not only do I want her to get some draft, but I don't want to close that. So sometimes it can be mutually beneficial to let somebody in. So this is right to left wind, and I'm not really sure why people weren't guttering more on the yellow line. And guttering, I mean, there's obviously no real gutters here, but it just means when you stay all the way to one side so that, yes, you're taking wind, but no one can get shielded. So if it gets completely lined out and everyone's along the gutter, then at least everyone's doing the same amount of work. Because you don't want to be shielding anyone else. But it's almost like they got an echelon going to try to work to bring these other groups back. So by staying to the right and then having people all be slightly off to the left, we're kind of helping each other by purposely giving people draft. But no one was really pulling through, so it's not like we were really working together. But at this point, that main group is already fully separated. So you've got most of the BBC guys, most of the bunch of project guys, Drew, James, and this group just kind of starting to do its own thing. John Suda's up there too. He's Shikluna. I see Moose go, but I see that Chris is going to go. I think that's Chris. Yeah, so I try to jump on his wheel. I'm already pretty fatigued at this point. But we're catching, I think that's John Embo is falling back from that breakaway group. So he's looking to jump back in line with us. I think he falls in behind me. Very content having the Shikluna guys do the work here. So I'm just sitting on. This is that finishing straight. So I think they kind of realized, like, I don't know why they're pulling as much. But at this point, I mean, they're the biggest team in our group, so if anyone's going to do the work to bring back that breakaway group, it really should be them. And they have less numbers. I mean, with John falling back, that front group has more BBC guys than it has Shikluna guys, so you know, they really should be pushing the pace and working to bring them back at this point. About to go back into the headwind. And I don't really know why, but I decided to do a poll. And I think I wasn't quite thinking about, you know, how many guys were in the front group and the team makeup, and that's the stuff you really do have to think about. Because when it comes down to it, it's like, well, Shikluna really should be doing all the work here. So they got a bunch of guys in this group, but they definitely have less in the front group. So if they were all on the front pushing the pace, you know, they got a better chance of bringing it all back together and having a better overall team result. This is that headwind section. You can see when I drift off to the side how much more work I gotta do just to keep up the pace, get back in the draft. So there's John Suda. He fell out of the breakaway because I guess his pedal fell off, and I believe he was able to get it back on. You'll see in a second. He joins back up with us. That's when things change for me. Brian pulls off, and Allison doesn't want to pull, and you can see Brian just kind of put his hands up. He's basically saying like, "Hey, I'm done." You know, he's been pulling for a while, put in a good effort. I think he realized somebody else has to do some work. I decided to take it up, but again, not really sure why. I think some of that is just like trying to prove that I should be here, but who knows if that's true. Maybe I should just stick with the bees for a little bit. I don't want to be pulling unnecessarily when I really shouldn't, especially because it's okay to be one of the weaker guys in the group. When you are, I think you got to play, knowing that, and try to conserve as much energy as possible. And here you see Shikluna gets back on the front. And I've been pulling pretty hard in this wind. You see I'm falling back quick, pushing over 300 watts, 400 watts. But that headwind is strong. So there's a little bit of organization pulling at the front, but there's definitely a lot of people who just choose not to get all the way to the front, don't want to pull, so they pull off early. Makes it difficult. I just did it right there. You can see I went over to the left, then I slapped back in. But I'm definitely feeling it at this point. And I'm gapping myself.
Right side.
So here comes John. He is super strong, got his pedal back on his bike, and comes flying up. And this is where things turn south for me. I'm just so wiped, and the change in pace from John now really picking it up and having a consistent. I'm doing surges here to try to stay on, and my heart rate's not that high. The 162 to 164 is basically my threshold heart rate. I should be able to hold that for a very long period of time, but my legs are just tired. I think that just goes with the muscular endurance that this long of a race and my previous workouts are just starting to add up, and I just don't have it. I'm sticking with it for a while, but I'm starting to really hurt. basically just pull off, tell them they gotta close the gap, and I just fall back. And then I think for a second, well, I'll get back on and see how long I can hang at the back of the pack. But it doesn't take me very long to realize that I just don't have it anymore. So I'll fall off pretty soon here, and then I basically just ride the last lap. I think this is just the last lap, so I ride this last lap all by myself. But I finished, and again, that's my longest race. Other people did drop before me, so you know, there's something to be said for that, but I really do want to get into practicing the tactics more, so I think Cat B or Group B for me next week, and we'll see if I can have some fun finish, and maybe we'll see a sprint or something rather than me constantly dropping off before the end of the race. We'll see how that goes, but please like and subscribe. I'll be back with more race recaps, and hopefully I'll be working on a little fun project with the BBC this weekend, which I'll have for you guys soon. Got a lot of really fun races coming up. Tour of Buffalo, if you haven't yet, you should register. There's 2 crits and a road race, and I think that's in 2 weeks time or 3 weeks time. But check it out, buffalobicyclingclub.com, their events calendar, and sign up on Bike Reg. So thank you guys for watching. Again, like and subscribe and comment if you have any tips for me, how I can improve, or things you'd like to see in the videos. All right, I will cut it here. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.